Hey guys, how's it going? Dustin's Left here, and I'm here with my friend Austin. We just beat The Last of Us Part 2, and we're just going to give some of our main impressions from it. Or spoilers, obviously. We're going to go deep into everything.
Heavy spoilers.
Heavy spoilers, yes. But Austin, I'm going to have you go first. What are your overall impressions of the game?
Yeah, man. I'm a big fan of Naughty Dog. I'll just throw that out right off the bat. They're probably one of my favorite game developers between the Uncharted series and the Last of Us series. Uncharted 4 specifically is one of my favorite games. Single player is amazing. But like everybody else, I love the first game, so I was really hyped, really intrigued by what we were going to see in the second one. And it does have some issues. I have some critiques, but overall, I think it's a great game, and there's a lot that I really loved about it.
I would say that, yeah, it's definitely not like a 10 out of 10 sort of thing, but I still think it's really good. I guess we'll get deeper into discussion with it, but I still think that overall, I really like it. I understand why people don't, and why people have certain gripes, but also I want to get this out of the way. We discussed it before, but anyone who doesn't like the game because there's SJW propaganda or whatever, pretty fucking dumb.
Go fuck yourself if you're one of those people. Let's be real.
Grow the fuck up, and once you do, you're ready to actually like discuss main critique points for a game, then you can come to the big kids table
and actually beat the game for yourself and not just watch gameplay on YouTube or read leaks. So
yeah, if you're just like, I feel like people got outraged just because it's like, oh my god, there's a Ellie's gay, what? Or like, oh my god, there's a transgender character. It's like, yeah, but like, if you're gonna get outraged because of that, like, actually play the game, because
it's integral to the story. It's not just
yes.
a throwaway thing.
Yes, it's actually like, it's not like just we have a token transgender character. Like,
No.
The character plays like a pretty significant role in that sort of way. Like, it really ties in well with one of the factions in the game. It just works great. So I think that it's fine to use. I just think that people were just out the gun. Like, they just jumped the gun and got really angry about it for no reason.
Which is really disappointing. And I know, we've seen stuff like this before with like other video games and other movies and stuff, but it's just really disappointing for a fan base such as like The Last of Us to react in such a childish way. And because of all of that, and there's obviously people that dislike the game for very genuine reasons, which we'll discuss, but the whole review bombing thing, like the Metacritic score is like a 3.4 out of 10, whereas the first game was like a 9 something of that sort, where they're just review bombing the game and just making making an opinion off of, reading leaks.
Typically what I've seen happen, because this is the second Sony exclusive that's got review bombed by users. At least, like, the last one was Death Stranding, and they're for different reasons, but I feel like it's just kind of strange how when a game is like getting really hyped up, like the ones that are very like story driven, they just get review bombed by people. Like, they'll just find a reason to, which, granted, for Death Stranding it was a gameplay issue, but for this one it was just such a stupid reason. I don't know. I just, that's the one thing that annoys me when it comes to games that are like have really high expectations, is that people just tear it apart. Anything that they see that they don't somewhat like, they immediately just say, oh, okay, it's a shit game, and like they just want to like point it out even more. So it's like, I guess that just kind of shows an example of how high of a bar Naughty Dog set, but at the same time, it's like, I just hate how nitpicky people are about it.
Yeah, it's awful, because today's Father's Day when we're recording this, and Neil Druckmann, the director of Last of Us Part 2, he just put out a tweet saying he had some like fan art that somebody made between Joel and Ellie, and he was just saying, wishing everybody a happy Father's Day, just a very simple tweet, and all of these people are in his comments, in his DMs, saying this game sucks, the story's shit, you social justice warrior, blah blah blah, like all of this shit. And it's just like, from Naughty Dog's perspective, they've been, whether you like the game or not, they've been making this game for several years. Probably, I think they actually started working on it in 2013, right after the first game, from what I read. And this has just been years of hard work, years of story development, years of, performance capture, and, scoring the game, creating the game visually, all these different aspects into it. And I feel like it's very... you're not really taking all of this work into consideration when you're just like, game sucks. That's not very critical, you know?
Well, I think it's mostly people who haven't played it.
Exactly.
Or maybe, I understand where the strong emotions getting, it's like where it's coming from, but yeah, I don't know. But that's just with the controversy stuff.
Yeah.
Just wanted to get that out of the way because I think that that's such an invalid criticism. But we can get into more detailed specifics of the game. So I guess first of all, I guess we'll get into the nitty gritty there. What do you think of the overall story?
So, you know, it took me some time to get into it, and right off the bat, it's like tonal whiplash because it starts out kind of light and airy and fun. 1 minute you're throwing snowballs at kids and all of that, and it's kind of like a light-hearted tone in a little bit. But then at about the 2-hour mark, things just take a turn for the worse, at least for our central characters. Joel is brutally killed by Abby, by a golf club, with her group, and that, you know, to be honest, I expected...
You made it sound like it was a Clue sort of thing, where it's like, it was Abby with the golf club in the ski lodge.
Yeah, I expected Joel to die in this game, to be honest. However, I definitely did not expect it to go like that, and especially that soon in the game. I did not know... Obviously, we didn't know plot details necessarily about what the game was about, but I didn't know, or expect rather, that the game would be centered about revenge for Joel's death. That was very surprising for me.
I felt like that was going to be the inciting action as soon as we met Abby and Owen. Like, for the first time, they're saying, like, or like they mentioned him, and I'm like, that's all I need to know. That's all I need to know, because obviously they're hunting him down. And of course they're looking for Joel. Who else are they looking for? Like Jesse or Tommy? No, they're looking for Joel, obviously. Yeah. So, and then you can see why they're hunting down Joel. I don't think it would be some random nobodies. It's going to be somebody that makes sense. And if they just planted the seeds in the first, like, first 5 minutes where Joel's, like, telling about the Fireflies and stuff, it's going to be the Fireflies. So, I kind of had that impression, like, I already knew where it was going to go, and I was like, oh god, this is what the
I just didn't expect it to be so soon. Obviously, when you first meet Abby and Owen in the group, you can suspect that they're tracking Joel or Ellie or something, but I just didn't expect it to take into fruition that quick.
Yeah. I really liked the first, like, 5 hours. I was really enveloped in the first 5 hours of the game, just because I loved all the establishment in Jackson being there, and then... yeah, those little fun moments sprinkled throughout. The gameplay was good and decent, and then also I actually really didn't mind playing as Abby in the beginning, which I could see some people being angry about having to play as a different character because it's just a new character that's brought in. But I really didn't mind it. And then as we got closer and closer, I was like, oh shit, I know what's going to happen. And then it got closer and closer. And when you got to that moment where she's beating the shit out of Joel, and it's just like, it hits you, so it still had like that big emotional impact. So I think that it was really effective in that way. So I think the first 2 hours were definitely really strong. And then the section following that, Seattle Day 1, where you're playing with Ellie, going into Seattle for the first time, kind of exploring the environment. First of all, beautiful visuals. This is Absolutely. Like the best looking game I've seen. It's rivaling Red Dead Redemption 2 in terms of looks.
Yep.
But when you get to like that more open area, I think that's one of my favorite parts of the game. Is just being able to explore this big portion of Seattle and able to enter the buildings. Ellie's marking all these things. There's like basically like a little dungeon you can go into with the bank, so you're just like clearing it out. I loved that. I wish there was more of that even.
Yeah, this is definitely Naughty Dog's biggest game in terms of level design and scope, because there's a lot of sections that aren't like quite huge open world, but they're knocking on the door of open world, the way that you can kind of go from different locations at your pace, at your discretion, however you want to pace yourself. Yeah, that's definitely one of the strong suits in the game for sure. And the whole Seattle portion with Ellie, I loved all of that.
Ellie goes to Seattle to hunt down everybody after Tommy's already left. Maria sends Ellie and Dina out to go retrieve Tommy and... get her revenge, hopefully. They eventually get to the Cervana Hotel or something like that. And then when they get there, it looks like Tommy's already been there, tortured 2 people in the same way Joel did back in the winter of the first game. But so then like you're always behind with Tommy, and I think it was very interesting how they did that, because like it was just very strange. Tommy in this game as a character was very interesting, and I want to talk about that later.
Yeah,
and we can be talking about each character later on, but you're always a step behind Tommy as he's like going through the city and everything. You see him wreaking havoc, and then eventually Dina and Ellie, after they do end up killing one of the people in the original group after they get captured, because turns out Shimmer blows up, dies, and then Ellie gets captured. Dina ends up getting away, but the person she like slit the face of the guy. He's the one who like meets Ellie when she wakes up, and she ends up killing him. So very brutally too, stabs him right in the neck, and he's just like, yeah, they're brutal deaths in this game.
Yeah, I mean, not only just the infected look a lot more gross in this game, but the human deaths, just the amount of bloodshed in this game is insane. I know some people have commented on that online, is, you know, Ellie and Abby for that matter, but Ellie especially leaves a large pile of bodies along the way.
Yeah, and the facial animations are like very interesting, just because like they do so much detail on them. So when you're choking somebody out,
you can see them like squirm, like you can see their like teeth cringe up and everything. Like,
yeah, and like their eyes just like roll back in their head as like they're choking out. Oh, it's terrible. And also Abby's like so fucking swole that she just pops someone's neck just by squeezing her biceps. It's so brutal. But yeah, as we go through the Seattle days, she kind of goes through one by one trying to track everybody down. Dina ends up playing the role of like the person over the radio because she's pregnant. She can't do much anymore, which I thought was very interesting to make her do. I feel like it really changed her as a character, almost for the worst. But yeah, so as you keep going, it turns out Jesse's out there. So then Jesse joins the group, and then you go to different locations like the hospital. You find Nora, you kill her, very brutally, mad, very brutally, and yet Ellie still got information out of her somehow, because it's like you're literally beating the shit out of her. I thought she was
like,
dead, and
she's turning into infected.
Talks.
Like her veins are all fucked up and everything. She looks like a mutant at this point, and yeah, that was a gnarly scene. But I loved it. I loved the darker atmosphere in that scene, and this game as a whole. This is such a bleak game.
I think that's the point, is that like, yeah, there's a lot of depressing moments, and I think that's why a lot of people didn't like it. But I think that it was necessary. The kind of story they were telling, I think, is fine. So yeah, we go through the 3 days with Ellie. She kills a lot of people. She kills Nora. She kills the one dude. And then she also kills Owen and Mel.
Yep.
So Owen, I never liked him, so it's whatever. He's dead. And then Mel,
pregnant.
She realizes that she's pregnant.
Whoops.
And yeah, that's kind of like the line that Ellie realized that she crossed, and she did not want to cross that. So it was really awkward. But after all that, you go back to the theater, and then like they couldn't find Abby. So then Tommy's like, oh, well, we should just head home now. And then Ellie's like, yeah, we probably should. So she begrudgingly agrees. And as they're getting ready to leave, Tommy gets big fucked. Yep. Abby breaks in there, and then she's holding Tommy down at gunpoint, and then
shoots him in the shoulder, I believe.
No, because Tommy gets hit in the leg with the arrow, and then gets shot in the head.
Was it the head?
Yes,
okay. Because
if you look in the later game, he survives.
Yep.
He has his eye like completely covered up and all fucked up and stuff. So, I did not think he was gonna live. By the way,
I thought he was
fucking
Dunzo.
dead, and I was like, "Oh my god, you killed both of them? What the fuck?" But yeah,
but nah, that's too dark.
Really, I don't know. I think it'd be fine if he was dead.
Being sarcastic.
I was gonna live with that, but then Jesse also gets fucked.
Oh.
The second he opens the door, just
boom, man,
and they're like, "This is such a quick death." I'm just like, "Wait, whoa. What?" Like, Jesus. So yeah, Jesse ended up dying too. And then after that moment, like that fight between them, both of them, that was intense. I was like,
was
I don't want to do this. I really did not want to do this. And Ellie was losing. I was like, Ellie, you're better than this.
Playing as Abby, you have to sneak around Ellie and outsmart her and everything. And the AI was pretty good on Ellie because she's like setting up trip mines and you could see her like shuffling through her bag just like you would when you play her.
I never set a trip mine once in the entire game, so I was like, Ellie, wow, you're doing more than I ever did.
Yeah, and it's just like when you're playing as Abby and you're sneaking around Ellie and you're like choking her out and punching her. In the back of my mind, I was like, come on, Ellie, break out of this, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, but I guess we can talk about that, the whole Abby.
I want to talk about, definitely want to cover Abby stuff, because before you get to that big action sequence between Abby and Ellie, it takes you back to Seattle Day 1 again, but from Abby's perspective. And I think that's an absolute gut punch to the pacing. I hated that because it was like tensions were really high, and then they're like, go back to day 1 where nothing matters, and Abby's just with people that I didn't care about. So it's like, why are you doing this? Like, I don't know what they could have done otherwise, but like, it was a bad timing, because in such a peak point of tension, going back and then trying to involve you with characters you didn't care about and that are already dead, it's like, But after day 1 for me, it picked up again, and I got really into day 2, day 3 sort of stuff. But day 1, like, at least all the way until the night,
I felt like day 1, again, like you said, it kind of ruins the pacing.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed, it took me a minute to get used to it, but I actually enjoyed playing as Abby in this game, because when you see where the story's going, the developers are trying to create this parallel between Ellie and Abby, and you get to see like this wake of destruction from both sides, which gives you a good glimpse at like how each of them react, this this perpetual circle of violence, how it's never ending. I really enjoyed it, but I do think having Abby's storyline take up nearly half of the game was just a little much. I think you easily could have condensed it to just the key moments, because day 1 was pretty inconsequential. I think if you were playing as Abby in the Seattle chunk for maybe 3 hours instead of 6 or more that you get, that would have been a lot better. Especially because, I did grow to care more about Abby as we played her, but at the same time, knowing how everything is, like, you've played as Ellie so much more, so at least for me, I'm biased in that way, where of course I'm going to side with Ellie. I'm more invested in Ellie's journey than I am Abby's. The game does go to great lengths to make you care more for Abby and show the destruction on both sides, but having nearly half of the game dedicated to Abby was just excessive in my opinion. That was my biggest critique with the game.
Abby's side also had one of the best set pieces.
Oh, when you're riding through the town on fire and everything, that was amazing.
You're going through the islands.
That was excellent, but that was towards the end of her arc.
Also, I noticed, maybe it's just because I have the slim, but there were some frame drops when I was going through that town a little bit. It was getting a little bit framey.
Yeah, just a tad.
Yeah, it wasn't like terrible, but it was noticeable. I'm like, ooh,
apparently
some frame drops.
Apparently the PS4 Pro has frame drops as well, perhaps more so than the Slim from whatever.
Well, if you're doing 4K, yeah, I don't know if this game does what like God of War did, where it's like you have a choice over performance or resolution, and then like you can choose between the two.
Gotcha.
I imagine with the Pro, just going for performance would be best. But the thing with Abby is that I liked having her story in there. So that's what the thing is. I'm kind of conflicted about how to do it correctly, because I still want the story to be there. I don't know how you would do it effectively without actually covering the full 3 days, unless maybe you just cut out gameplay sections and just teleport her there for the next cutscene. That'd be the only way to really do it. But how much they like fleshed out her character in terms of having like her own set of weapons and then having to upgrade all of them, and then also having training manuals, using all the supplements to fill out those categories and stuff. She had like just as much customization as Ellie did. So I think that unless you wanted to like cut some of that out, which I don't know if I would want to cut it out. It's such a hard thing, because like you're trying to begin again, and I don't think you would want to go back to back day 1, day 2, day 2. That wouldn't work. So I don't know. It's just so hard to tell what to do. It's really awkward when you put it at such a peak action, then slowed it down again.
And it takes a long time to get back up to there, because
Yeah, it takes a long time.
Depending on your playthrough and your difficulty and everything, that could take you an extra 6 to 9 hours or something before you actually get back to the heart of the story. And I just feel like that's excessive. If Naughty Dog could have truncated that to just the key moments, like, when she meets, what's the kid's name?
Yara.
Lev and Yara. Yeah. So if we started, more towards that instead of beginning when, there's this drama with Abby and Isaac and they're getting ready for this FOB mission and, a lot the downtime.
They're planting the seeds.
They are, but I don't know. I feel like it's just a little too long to get to the point and lengthwise. So, I mean, this game is easily twice the length of the first game. And I do think it had to be longer, but depending on your playthrough and depending on, if you're going for the collectibles, if you're trying to find all the safes and upgrade everything, depending on your difficulty, this game will run you in the gamut between 20 to 30 hours for most people. And I feel like that's a little excessive. Not because that's too long in and of itself, but the whole Abby portion just really, like you said, it's a gut punch to the pacing. And I feel like either it could have just been shorter, or maybe you could have replaced it with something.
I just don't know how. I'm trying to think of alternatives, and I can't. Because,
it's very ingrained into the structure of the game.
It's so important to the game because it's the whole point of the theme. It's the whole point of the story is kind of convey this sort of feeling of both sides. And I feel like you couldn't do it effectively unless you covered all the days. And, there's a lot of important establishing stuff that happens in day one that has to be there. Do I think all of it has to be there? No, you probably could have cut some of it out. Like that, literally the opening piece when they're going to the warehouse and she's making up with Mel, and I was like, you didn't even have to do all this.
Exactly.
You could have skipped that part. Just go with the part with Isaac where, you're just planning the attack and stuff, and then also you hear about Owen, who potentially is a traitor. And then just get into there. I think that would have been a lot easier. Just start us off talking with Isaac. But you did have to get more acquainted with other characters like Manny. Got to learn to care about them a bit more. Maybe bond with Mel, who seems like a bitch the entire time.
Yeah.
So maybe hearing some nice things from her could help. That's kind of the thing with Abby's side is that I definitely cared about her side of the story. And I think that we got to know a lot more about the characters. And that's why I think a second playthrough would really do a lot of favors for you. Because as I've been watching other people play through it, and as much as I want to get back through it, watching people play through it, I'm immediately getting a whole different impression from the game. So that entire intro sequence where they're beating the shit out of Joel, it's now you know all these characters.
Yep.
And then now you're kind of getting more stuff into it. And then as you're going through the game, it gives you a whole new perspective. So I'm definitely interested in going back through it again. And then maybe that could give me a different impression of the game.
That's how I feel. I already just started my second playthrough. And right now I'm just kind of obsessed with this game. I really want to dig in deeper on a higher difficulty, explore it a little bit more, and just play through it again with that different perspective. It's really great. Movies and video games are kind of alike in the way where you'll play through it a first time and then maybe something will catch you off guard, or, it's not what you expect, which was kind of the case for this game for a lot of people, myself included. And revisiting it a second time is going to give you a lot more context, that you're going to pick out more about it. I'll probably end up appreciating it more. I'm sure I'll still have some of the same nitpicks like we kind of had, but I'm just very interested to take another deep dive into the story, especially because it's one that Naughty Dog's been, making for the last 7 years. They made it this way for a reason. So
yeah. So this game has a weird part, and I think that maybe some people are thrown off by it, is that it has a false ending. So what happens is that Ellie and Abby get in the fight. You have to play as Abby the entire time, which is really unfortunate because I didn't want to beat the shit out of Ellie because it just felt terrible. Because every time Ellie killed me, I'm like, okay, can that be the canon ending? Yeah. That's it. Ellie wins. Done. Story's over. But no, you have to beat the shit out of Ellie to the point where she's almost dead, and it's I don't want to see you again.
And Dina almost dies as well.
Yeah, and then Ellie's but she's pregnant, and then Abby's so was Mel. It's good. Goes to slit, and then Lev was thankfully there to be yo, how about we don't?
I love that Lev was there. Lev is a great addition to the story. Kind of in that moment of just pure like passion and rage on Abby's part, Lev is the one that's like, hey, Mel was pregnant and Dina's pregnant. There's this duality there. Each have lost.
There's a lot of dualities in this.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I really do appreciate about it. That a lot of people might overlook, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, because like the whole backstory with Abby was that Joel killed her daddy, so then Abby killed Ellie's daddy.
Yep.
So
yep.
Yeah, they definitely
lots of parallels for sure.
Yeah, so there's a lot of parallels between the characters and stuff. But if Lev wasn't there, Tommy probably would have fucked Abby up. Let's be honest.
Probably.
Because then Ellie would have got in there too, and Abby would have been done. But yeah, it had like this weird false ending stuff. Abby lets you go, and says, "I don't want to see you ever again." And then she heads down to Santa Barbara to go hopefully rejoin the Fireflies if they exist out there. And then it cuts to about a year later after everything. And then Ellie's back at home with Dina, and they have their farmhouse they were talking about in the beginning of Seattle Day 1. And they're just kind of living their best life, just chilling out. And then Ellie has a little bit of a PTSD flashback.
Yep.
And she just gets stuck in that moment. And that's when Tommy shows up and is like, yo, guess what? And I'm like, are you fucking kidding? No, Tommy, don't. And he's like, I've been putting some feelers out there, and I heard she's in Santa Barbara. I'm like, God damn it. No, Tommy, we're not doing this. Ellie's not going to do that. And then she's like, I can't. I'm like, yes, that's the right answer. And then Tommy got all really pissy about it, and that caught me off guard. I was like, Tommy, why are you so pissy about this? Like, you're the one who wanted to be done in the first place.
Yeah, I do find it. I'm not surprised that Ellie did that after Tommy came by, but Tommy's whole reaction of like, you made a promise to me, that whole thing, like he was so passionate about it. It did catch me a bit off guard. It was very...
It doesn't seem like his character.
It was kind of heavy-handed. It was like, this is, you have this you have this false ending, like you say, and then we need a reason for Ellie to actually go and finish the deed and actually go kill Abby. But it's not going to be Dina. It's not going to be Ellie herself that is convinced. So we have to have this plot device. And Tommy...
Well, she does kind of convince herself in a way.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. If Tommy had never showed up, wouldn't Ellie... Exactly. So Tommy in that way is kind of a plot device. It is convenient. I can understand Tommy's rage for wanting to get it done, but it just feels very convenient, I think.
I feel like it's like forced in a way, because it's like it doesn't seem like his character, because even in like the very beginning he's like, and maybe he's just hiding his emotion or whatever, but in the beginning he's like he's just like, he's trying to like talk her out of it and being like, don't do this, and then he ends up going and doing it. And that's why I feel like we need to see more as Tommy as a character in this game to kind of understand his motivation, because
I agree.
I don't think we ever fully we never got to see him as a character, because
I agree.
He just lied apparently I guess he was just lying to Ellie that entire night, saying like, don't do it, just wait a day or something, and then he just fucks off in the middle of the night.
Yep.
And then literally says like, lock Ellie down, don't let her leave, and all that shit. I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, it's kind of weird, Tommy. Like, I guess I understood at that point. I understood his motivation there.
Tommy is full of rage for sure, and that's something that Ellie shares as well, but it's just because I think Ellie had Dina to be like, hey, we need to get out of this. We have a family now. And then when Tommy reemerges and everything, it's like, that's what kind of sparks the flame, so to speak. But I think Dina was the reason why Ellie settled down and everything. And when Abby like almost killed Dina, almost killed Ellie, and she's like, I better not see you ever again or something like that. I think that was like the nail in the coffin.
Life. I mean, I just don't see the motivation behind Ellie going out to do it again, because I was like, she has PTSD. I'm like, okay, you can just like, maybe there has to be someone who is like at least a good listener in Jackson that you can go talk to, maybe get some like therapy with it, work it out that way. But no, she's like, I gotta go kill her. That's the way that'll make you feel better. And I'm like, that will not make you feel better.
Well,
I promise you it will not make you feel better.
In all fairness, I mean, let's skip to the ending then. So I like that you bring that up, because that's the whole point that the game makes.
Yes, I get that.
That is ultimately the point that the game makes, is that Ellie goes all the way to Santa Barbara to pursue Abby. She finds her posted up to a what would you call it? like that wooden
they
spike
were like,
or whatever, and she's with the kid's name. Lev. I keep on forgetting his name. So they're all tied up. Ellie finds both of them and cuts them down. Almost lets them off scot-free at first, and then she's like, no, I have to do this. We're gonna fight. And Abby is resistant. She's like, no, let's just, I'm over it. Let's leave. And then Ellie threatens Lev's life with the knife, like at his throat. She's like, no, we're doing this. And she's like, okay, we'll fight. And Ellie beats the shit out of Abby.
It's a very close fight. Like the entire time, it's very back and forth. Like at the same time, Ellie did like fuck up Abby a lot, but
then Abby does rebound.
Abby does get the rebound and bites off two of Ellie's fingers. Yep. Very important because it's really fucking depressing later. But bites off two of the fingers, and then after Ellie's just about to kill Abby, she gives up and lets her leave. Which I think it's very interesting that she ended up doing that. But regardless, she lets her leave, and then she's sitting all depressed in the water. And then she goes back home, and of course, as I called it the second it started, I'm like, she's gone.
Family's gone.
Dina left, and Ellie just tried to play her guitar, but she lost two of her fingers, so she couldn't play.
And then ultimately, she leaves behind the only real memory left that she has of Joel. She leaves the guitar in the house, and she wanders off. God knows where. Off, yeah. So it's a very bleak ending.
Very bleak.
Very. And
everyone's either dead or gone. And I imagine that I was like, literally, up to that point, I was like, can you just like lie to Tommy? Like as the more she's in Santa Barbara, I'm like, you could just lie to Tommy and say you did it. But then she's like, nah, I'm gonna keep going.
But I mean, it's not all happy, tied in a bow. It's very real. It feels very realistic. You know, the point that this game is trying to make is that this is a bleak world. This is kind of the dangers of the cycles of violence on both sides. Because I also watched another video where this one YouTuber made a really good point. Say Ellie actually killed Abby in that moment and left, right? Think about Lev's perspective. You know what I mean? Lev likely would have lived the rest of his life, you know, been absolutely outraged. You know what I mean? And maybe one day he would have wanted to do the same thing to Ellie, go kill her at some point. But Ellie breaks the cycle of violence. And that's kind of what the whole game is this back and forth cycles of violence on both sides, as playing as Abby and Ellie both illustrate. And Ellie, you know, breaks the cycle. She's like, no, I'm not going to do any more of this. It's just going to lead to more suffering on all sides. She matures in that way and leaves. But even though she didn't do it, the fact that she left in the first place kind of gave in to Tommy's plea. Everything that she knows is gone. And
I think that's interesting, is that like it was like, oh, which side, what kind of story is Naughty Dog going to tell? The one where it's like she loses everything because she was so driven by revenge, or one where she decides to break the cycle and be a better person? They decided, let's do both.
Exactly.
let's make it so that way she learns the lesson at the very last second,
but still loses everything.
Yeah, like she decided to learn the lesson, but only at the last second, where it didn't matter anymore. Because at that point, like, I guess it still matters from like Lev's perspective, but that was it. Because like she already lost everything else back at home. Everything else is gone. But
I feel like it's definitely a bleak ending, but I mean, it's real. It's not all perfect. It's supposed to leave you feeling bittersweet in a lot of ways. And I really do appreciate that Naughty Dog swung for the fences on that ending and a lot of storytelling choices as a whole. I know it's not going to work for a lot of people, and they knew that as well. They said before the game came out, I think Troy Baker as well, like last year.
Have an open mind going into it.
Exactly. So we kind of knew some shit was going to go down. But despite it going that way, and despite me having some critiques just about the pace of the game, I think the storytelling decisions pay off. For me, I loved how the game concluded. It's very bittersweet. Again, you have to go in kind of expecting that. I mean, in an apocalyptic wasteland, this kind of shit is just gonna happen. Like, you're gonna lose, you're gonna learn lessons, and you're gonna lose people, and that's just kind of the cycle.
Yeah. When it came to the end, I didn't think Ellie was gonna make it back.
I thought she was gonna die.
I thought she was gonna die in like it was my two predictions at the end as like Ellie got in Santa Barbara. I'm like, first of all, why the fuck are you here? You shouldn't be here. Anyways,
she's like bleeding and everything, and she's like, oh, knocking on death's door the whole time.
Yeah, I was like, either Abby's gonna like kill her or something, which I don't think was gonna happen. I think that'd be like pretty shit if it did. But otherwise, I thought maybe she would end up helping Abby, which she ended up doing. But she didn't become like in some way like a semi ally. It was I thought what was gonna happen is that maybe she would help Abby, and then they would just like go to that island to go to where the Fireflies are, and then like she would get that second chance at a choice where she finally gets say in what happens. Like maybe we can try again for that cure. And then I thought maybe she would say like yes, and then that would be the end of that way. Because I just felt like when they're really close to the Fireflies right now, and then like I feel like she's gonna help Abby because she's locked up, like unintentionally or not, she's gonna help Abby, and then like where that leads, who knows? I was wrong. No, she's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. She keeps going, and I kept asking myself, I was like, why do you like? Where's the motivation coming from this? And it's only until the very last like flashback where you understand, I guess, because if you read in her journal, she mentions very early on that it's like the last conversation with Joel is constantly running through her head, and I'm like, what is that last conversation? And when I saw it at the dance, I thought that was her last conversation, and I was like, oh, it's so sad. Like she's like completely like disowning him and like just saying like, you just want to completely dissociate from your life. And I was like, that's the last thing he heard. But no, it turns out it's the other one where it's like they were going to like try and forgive. Like she was going to try and forgive him.
That was beautiful. I absolutely loved that flashback. That was probably the one of the two moments in the game where I cried, because Troy Baker's performance especially is amazing. Like as he's sitting there, he's like quivering. Yeah. His voice is shaking and it's cracking, and he's like, I'd like that. When Ellie says like, I could try to forgive you, and he just says, I'd like that. The crack in his voice just fucking got me, man. That scene was great. Absolutely.
I also thought it was very interesting how he said that if he had the opportunity to do it all again, or if he could turn back time, he would do it all again.
Which means like, he wouldn't have that relationship with Ellie going forward, but that's what Ellie wants, because Ellie in the game feels like she has no purpose, and she felt like she says, she was robbed of her purpose, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that Ellie, we talked about her motivation and how I was a little bit confused on it until the last flashback, which I think is very strange, where it's like you get, it's very fitting because how emotional it is, but it's just the way the entire game is structured. It makes some of those flashbacks weird because there's certain things that the flashbacks have effects on that I feel like it's very strange that they have them where they are. At the same time, it kind of works, but it kind of doesn't. And it messes with me.
I think they work. I think they work, but as you're playing through it at a first time, you're like, what? That contrasts this, but you have to beat it. It's that last flashback where Ellie says, yeah, I'm willing to try to forgive you. That is the last real conversation that they had prior to Joel getting killed. Right. Hence why Ellie is so infuriated, because I know you brought this point up to me too, where Ellie, you know,
is after she figures out the truth in the hospital and stuff.
Where she's like, I don't want anything to do with you. I'll go back, but we're done. And then you raised that kind of idea to me. We're like, well, if she's so outraged by it, then why is she so outraged when Joel dies to go fight for him? But again, it's the progression of the flashbacks.
Right. It's just that it's like, it just felt really juxtaposed to what modern day was, where she's going so far out of her way to do it. And I'm like, why would you show this now? I mean, as opposed, like, I understand I don't think they should have done it in chronological order, because it would have taken forever to get that inciting action in. Yeah. But it just felt weird, you know, like it had to be like that. Again, there's a lot of weird things about this game where it's like, there's things that I would say I don't like, but then like, I don't know how I would change it, just because it's like, these are important story elements. Like, I almost feel like it's an entire middle game like that could have been in there just because of how much happens, but like there's probably wasn't much action to be had in it. But I don't know, it's just very interesting how they have to like sprinkle in bits of the past out of order in the story. But also that museum scene, fucking, it tore me apart.
Oh God, yeah.
Because like it was it was so sad because I was like, oh, we're back to like we're back to classic Ellie and Joel, and
I love that.
It was the dinosaurs, and I was like, ah.
And then Joel's like, hey kid, wasn't it her birthday or something?
Yeah.
So he takes her into the space shuttle. She grabs a helmet off the display, and I think he gives her like
it's a tape of like a launch.
Yeah. Love that. That was beautiful. And then like Ellie's reaction, she just looks at Joel with like this sense of wonderment and excitement, and Joel just feels accomplished. I'm like, yeah, this is why we love these characters, you know.
As she was getting like super immersed in the launch, I was like getting teary-eyed because I was like, oh, he's fucking dead now. Like this is like the moment that you like ruined everything, or like, you know, it's like it's gonna get worse from here.
There's a lot of emotional moments in this game. I definitely teared up a couple of times. That I would say there were probably 3 main times where I got really emotional. It was the space launch scene, it was Joel's death, and the last flashback between Ellie and Joel. Those are like the 3 main ones for me.
I think there was another moment before that. I don't remember what part there was. There was definitely a time where I had like a tear running down my eye, and I was like, ah, fuck.
It's a sad game, okay, guys? It's a sad game.
I don't remember what part it was though. I have to look back, but there's definitely like some emotional hits in there. I did not get really upset when Joel died because it was just so expected, and your
reaction said otherwise.
My face was just like, I was just like wincing the entire time. I was just like, this is like I knew this was gonna happen.
Dude, he got Negan'd, but with a golf club.
Yeah,
it really it had some Walking Dead vibes.
It's
for
really
sure.
Gross. You could see the brains on the
just
on
like
the
Walking
club,
Dead.
And I was like, oh, it's gross. Except back then, it was characters you didn't care about in Walking Dead. It was like, whatever. Yeah, Glenn, which was
I cared about Glenn.
Of course, people cared about Glenn, but I'm talking about what's his face,
Abraham.
Yeah, he got Abraham.
I liked Abraham too.
I did not care about him.
I liked him.
Anyways,
I haven't watched Walking Dead in years, so whatever.
No, but the thing is that like that still got me is that yes, I think Abby's story was very important to tell. I didn't feel any emotion from it at all. From her side of the story, I felt nothing. I did not give any emotional fucks. But I still felt like it was important to tell. So I don't know what they could have done to make me care more. I hated Owen as a character. I hated him. I think he has he's the worst actor in the game, and you can fight me on that. But I'm pretty sure the NPCs have better acting. Because if you go back to that first bit, like the first time you meet him and he's like guiding you through, his voice delivery is god awful. Like, I'm going to play through it again with you, play through the video, scroll through it, and you tell me that those are good delivery lines.
I mean, I thought it was fine. He doesn't hold a candle to the main trio, obviously.
Right.
But
I just didn't like him as a character, and also I don't think his delivery was that great. But, yeah, he was just kind of a shitty person.
He was. Yeah.
And I felt like they tried to make you care about him, maybe, but it just didn't work.
Yeah, I never gave a shit. And then the whole reveal that, early on, he got Mel pregnant, but there's still this love triangle between her and Abby, even though they're not a thing anymore.
I was gonna mention this. So there was one thing that was spoiled to me in this game. As I was it was after I was already started playing it. And I scrolled through my Twitter feed. And I'm like, oh no, the fuck is that? I didn't even think it was really a spoiler. I was like, I don't know what the fuck this even is. It was the sex scene between her and
yeah,
Owen.
I think I got that spoiled too.
I got that spoiled to me, and I just saw the video. And I'm like, I saw a glimpse of the video. I'm like, what the fuck even is this? I just kept scrolling through, and I was like, whatever. But I was like, and then I saw the scene. I'm like, oh god, this is the video. So I don't know what kind of face I made during the scene, but it was probably something oh shit, it really is happening.
Yeah, speaking of leaks, so I don't know if I already touched on this or not, but the only thing that I kinda had spoiled, I think
Joel's death was spoiled.
Yeah, I saw that somewhere. First of all, I didn't know if it was legit, but if it was, which it obviously was, I wasn't surprised.
It was very go-to.
Yeah, but I didn't have anything else spoiled for me personally, so... Yeah.
That's the only thing for me that got spoiled as well, and...
I didn't know how he died. I just knew he was going to die. Plus, I predicted it anyway.
It was... So. I think it's a very predictable thing to say, if... I think that anyone, if they were playing last... they were like, oh, if they make a sequel, what do you think's going to happen? I was like...
Joel's gonna die.
Say Joel's gonna die, probably, because Ellie can't die. She's gonna be the main character, so Joel's probably gonna die. It's a safe assumption.
Didn't expect it to be so soon.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. After you see Abby and Owen, I immediately was like, okay, yeah.
But within the first couple hours, that's what got me.
It's the inciting action. Of course, it would be, and that's what the entire game's gonna be about.
I thought they were gonna go to him and confront him to some extent about, Abby's father being killed by Joel. I was able to connect that. I just did not expect him to go out in such a gory fashion and to that be the inciting incident of the plot. I guess, I don't know, I wasn't really thinking about plot details ahead of time or predicting things, so I guess maybe just because of that, I was so shocked because I wasn't thinking about it ahead of time.
I don't intentionally try to predict things, and my brain just jumps to these conclusions of what's going to happen. I'm like, oh god, she's going to do this, and No, but I think it's really interesting that the one person that you're forced to kill in the hospital back in the first game, it happens to be the father, because you don't have to kill any of the other surgeons or doctors. There's 3 in there. But there's one you have to kill. And I killed him the most brutal way. I could have shot him, but no, I took his scalpel and I slit his throat. But, yeah, it's very interesting. It almost makes me feel like they had it planned out in some way. Like, they must have had it, like, as a go-to thing. Just because it's like, you have to kill him. I think we mentioned it before, with Lev. I think Lev was a fine character. And I think it's really interesting how Lev plays a dynamic in there, because it's like... transgender character, and then also the way that Lev fits in there, I think is really well, because it's like, it wasn't like some token transgender character. It was a character that like was part of a religious faction that would completely like fuck you up if you...
That was an emotional scene where he goes to confront his mother about his, about his lifestyle choices, and then she absolutely lashes out, I think tries to kill him, and in self-defense kills his mother. And
she just starts beating him, and then he pushes back and then accidentally kills her.
Oh,
I think she fell.
I thought she was trying to kill him, and he killed her in self-defense.
I mean, I think that it was assumed they might have, but I don't know. We don't know if she was trying to kill him or if was trying to just beat the shit out of him.
Either way, not a good situation.
The quick version of conversion therapy.
Oh my god!
Just beat the shit out of him. But no. So I think he accidentally kills her.
Yeah,
and then he's like really traumatized by it and stuff. I feel really bad for Yara as well.
I know.
Rip Yara.
Oh my god. I mean, she had her arm hammered, completely broken, and then if they didn't amputate, it was gonna turn to gangrene. So they amputate, but she still gets shot the fuck up by like Isaac's guys.
Oh, that's right.
She does shoot Isaac. I love that. Even though she was on the ground, like on death's door, kills Isaac, and then she gets shot like 12 times. Yeah. It was brutal, dude. I was like, holy shit, Yara.
I was like, holy fuck, who the fuck shot Isaac? And then it like moves out of the way, and Yara's sitting there like,
she's ragdolling because she's getting hit everywhere, like 12 bullets at once.
Damn.
That was insane.
That's fucking insane. I mean, granted, I don't think Yara was gonna live much longer anyways, because she had one arm. What is she gonna do?
Yeah.
But still, man, fucking intense. I loved the introduction of the Seraphites. When you're with Ellie and you just like, you come over the hill, just get shot in the shoulder, and then they're all doing like the whistles and shit. I'm like, my god, that was crazy. What the fuck is happening? I loved that moment. It was so good. Just like their entire introduction. I think as you get to know them more, they stopped being as weird because they started acting like normal people, especially when you get into the town. And I think that was like definitely like kind of changed your perspective on them. But I loved how ominous and creepy they were when you first met them. You're just like, holy shit, I don't want to mess with these people.
The whistles are creepy. Ugh. Another thing I kind of want to touch on with this game is I think the Last of Us games are kind of underrated in just like the horror department. At least for me, in both games, especially this one, there's a lot of terrifying ass scenes. One of them for me that we both talked about this is the sequence with Abby where she's in the basement trying to retrieve the supplies. She goes into the broken down ambulance, she gets the supplies, and then you get that big bloater motherfucker. It's not a bloater, it's bigger. It's like,
I don't even know what you call it.
I don't even know what it's called.
It's like 8 clickers combined into some giant
huge
shit.
Motherfucker. And there's this really... for me, it was a challenging fight. It took me several times to beat it. But it was really terrifying. And then when you think you've killed it, there's that other little motherfucker that like detaches and starts running away. So you
That's
have
such a gross scene watching it detach.
I know.
Like, oh.
And then once you kill the big guy, then you move on and you have to kill the other one, and he's just like
prowling down. Man.
Yeah, that shit was terrifying. I hated playing it, like in a good way. It really got under my skin. lots of great stuff like that.
I do like those moments and stuff because I think that was really nice. We're gonna get that's kind of going more towards like the gameplay side of things, but I do like they had like they had a variety of infected that they kind of threw in there as well.
Another element I really enjoyed is earlier on in the game where you're also in the basement of you're in the sewer, I believe, with Dina, and then you get the infected with is it the WLF? Yeah. So you've got the WLF. I think they're looking for us, and then there's also a bunch of clickers around. And I was like, I could take all of them out myself, but nah. I had a brick or like a bottle of glass or something, so I chucked it, so that way the clickers would all go after the WLF. So it was like this war on both sides while I like tried to sneak out. I love that in this game you can just play it smart like that and just have all factions fight each other. That's just really satisfying.
Santa Barbara had a lot of that too. You could break the chains off the zombies. I never did it, but like you could.
I never got around to it, but you could.
It was so intense with those fights. I didn't have time to go down to a pool and get free.
You would have gotten fucked up.
I would have gotten totally fucked up. I don't know how you played on a hard difficulties because I was barely living. But I'm trying to think. With I think another thing about, I guess we can still kind of include it in the character section would be the NPCs, like the regular like AI that you're fighting. They have a lot of character in a way. Like I don't know if you noticed, but the way that works is that like as opposed to the first game, everyone you're fighting is like just the same looking thugs over and over. With this one, like the WLF as a faction, the WLF, like the Wolves and the Scars, they both have like a lot of personality between them. Like you can tell that like when you see that faction coming in, you can tell who it is just by like the way they dress, the way they act, they're doing the whistles and everything. The Wolves, they normally have like a dog with them, or they're just normal people, I guess closer normal people, but you can kind of tell who's who in the groups. And I do like that differentiation between them where you can tell who you're fighting. And then also
when you kill them and like one of them will discover a body, they'll be like, oh my god, no, Peter's dead.
Like they'll call names.
Exactly, they'll call names and everybody be like, oh my god, start looking for Ellie, or if they know who you are and all that stuff.
The trespasser.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved that. I think that was like, it was so brutal too, because it's like, John, move in, and then you fucking blast his head off. Like, like everyone's like freaking out, or it's like, they just shout out someone like, oh my god, they killed Jessica, or whatever. And it's like, it's so fucked. I'm pretty sure though I have run into like 3 Kevins in the game, but that's okay.
Still,
it's okay, because I still think it really adds to that, where it's like everyone has their own names, because like they'll be like, they'll actually call someone out to move in. They're like, they'll be like, yo, James, move in. And then you'd be like, all right. And then he like starts moving in a little bit. And I was like, that's really cool. I appreciate that.
It is cool.
Yeah.
It's a step up from the last game.
Definitely. So I think that in terms of like the character stuff like that, the enemies are a lot more interesting to fight because they are a lot different. And then also they just have a lot of character in general between each other. And even when you put them in a chokehold, instead of it just being like constant like noise and struggling stuff, they actually have conversations with you. And sometimes, so some of them are completely complacent, where it's like Ellie just gets behind him and she's like, shut the fuck up. And he's like, okay. And you just kill him. Or sometimes they're like, you're gonna fucking die.
I'm gonna experiment more with that on my next playthrough. Because as soon as I grabbed people, I know there's an option where you could hold a gun to their head and you can like move throughout the rest of the enemies, so you can kind of like escape in a way. I never did that. I always just choked all the motherfuckers out or shivved them because I just wanted to get rid of them right away. But that's one thing I'll have to experiment with.
I did that once. I did like a couple times towards the end. I think I did like twice overall, where I did that gunpoint thing where I hold someone out and then like the other person's like, oh shit, and I just point the gun, bam, bam, and then I kill the person. And it was very interesting.
Another thing I'm thinking of is just how beautiful this game is right now. It kind of pushes the boundaries of the PS4, but I bet they'll do like next year in a couple years, they'll do a PS5 remaster. Can you imagine what that's going to look like?
If they have that RTX technology stuff, it's going to look incredible.
And ray tracing. Yeah,
you get that's the same thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Once they get the ray tracing stuff in there, and then you can actually like fully play it in 4K unless you wanted to do it with the Pro, which I think that with overall increased specs, you'd probably be able to play it in 4K 60, hopefully. which I think that's kind of what they're toting for this next generation. So I would definitely be down to try like the remaster just to see how much better it runs. Though I don't know if they're gonna make you rebuy it or not.
Maybe they did. They did that with the last one.
Yeah,
it was a full $60 price tag. So
yeah, but yeah, the last one ran really well on the PS4. So I would love to see one that runs that well, like this game running that well.
I'd even be down for a PS5 remaster of the first game.
I mean, like they just use like the same engine and like asset stuff. Like they just throw it into like the new one, or you mean just throw the game in there with like 4K? Because it's kind of hard with the older textures. You would have to like you had to reuse all the assets and things.
Yeah, it might not be very practical of them to do that at this point. Yeah, but
I'm trying to think. Is there any other characters that we haven't mentioned? Jesse was a really good character. I really liked him. Yeah. Like the entire time, super likable, and like I was kind of finding it surprising
because it's actually his baby.
Yeah, well, yeah, with Dina, but I was really surprised because like I could see myself not liking a lot of the new characters they had introduced. Like I didn't care about Abby or her friends at all. By the way, we never mentioned Tommy fucked up Manny.
Oh yeah! Oh my god, yeah.
Manny just
was vicious
because he's like, "Fuck it, boom!"
I loved that
killed
when you're like pushing up through all the cars and everything. There's that sniper.
I knew it was Tommy.
I didn't even think about it. I was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" And then it's Tommy. I'm like, "Oh, that's perfect. That makes sense." Because earlier on, you've got that flashback with Tommy and Ellie, and Tommy is like an expert marksman. So I wasn't even thinking about that, but that was a good.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even think about that part, but I was just thinking to myself that like they're talking about like because Manny started mentioning trespassers and stuff. How they've been fucking a lot of people up, and like this guy alone, he didn't. I don't think he mentioned it was a scar. Or maybe he did, but I was like, where was Tommy in all this? Like he wasn't here until a certain point. So I was like, this must be Tommy because like you're not even able to kill him. Like you have to chase after him. So I'm like, this is definitely Tommy. And then you ran into him, and I'm like, yep. It's Tommy. And then Abby's like, I don't know who that was. So I don't know.
Yeah, not important.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And I'm like, you know exactly who it is. But yeah, Jesse was a good character. Unfortunately, he had to get fucked in the face.
I know.
Dina I still really liked, even though I think that as a character, I don't like what happened to her. Where she became like this sort of background, because I liked it when she was really involved and she was with Ellie like side by side and they're just kicking ass and stuff.
I think there's enough of both, but I mean, think about it if you're pregnant, like
right.
Of course, Ellie wants to protect her, and
but she was like super weak. Like she just got hella weakened after the first day.
That's true.
She was just like sick the entire time. Like she couldn't even move, and I was like, I mean, did you just like get like a fever or something? Because it's not how you don't lay down for 9 months like sick. Normally you're just like, yeah, I don't know. But
well, we don't know how far along she was either.
I mean, fair enough, but like she didn't really have much going on.
That's true. Still earlier on.
She did have a long relationship with Jesse, so who knows? But yeah, I mean, she would have to. I would say that she had to be maybe like a couple months in, nothing more, like maybe 2 months at most. Because she said she was late a few weeks, so she was probably like 2 months or so in. So it wasn't that far, but I don't know. She just got really weakened, and I don't think that makes much sense. Maybe she was just having a fever or something. But
it's a small thing that I can work around. So
she just became like the tracker and stuff, which I thought was fine. But it's just I wish that she was back in the action more. Instead, she was just like literally nothing for the rest of the game. Like even towards the end, like when you're fighting with Abby, like she just like lays there to die. So it was interesting. So when it came to like hunting down everybody, what did you think of that aspect? Like the story aspect of like Ellie like hunting down each and every person. Did you like that kind of?
Yeah, I dug it. I know some people have expressed some thoughts about it. I enjoyed it because I mean it's just this clear path of bloodshed and rage on Ellie's part. You know, I guess there's a conversation to be had as if like when you go to the final moments where she spares Abby, you know, thinking about all of the bloodshed that she's had up until that point, I don't think the developers were just like, oh, but this one is the one that's going to totally wash away her sins. I don't think that's the point. It's just breaking the cycle of violence, as I said, because, of course, all of the actions that Abby has made, all of the actions that Ellie has made, and all the lives they've taken, they are going to be hated forever by, you know, the people that's been affected by. But I just think it's quitting the cycle. It's like, okay, we're just going to move on from this. Of course, you're going to carry your sins with you. And this is, all of the bodies, all of the things that they've done is, it's not just washed away by that one act. I think that's important to keep in mind. But I think it's great character work, personally.
Yeah, I think it's just really interesting how, in the end, when it comes down to Ellie, like she does a lot of like, I think I mentioned it at the very end when I was done playing, because I kind of rambled for a little bit, but like what she decided to do was just very Joel. Like she took Joel as like a role model in a way, and then like you see in the beginning, you have seeds of that where she's like, Joel will be already halfway to Seattle. Yep. So it's like, she kind of like looked up to him in a weird way, even though like he was a terrible person, did a lot of terrible things, but she still kind of like looked up to him in a way, and then
still her father figure.
Yeah, so then she ended up like adopting a lot of his sort of his sort of like traits of determination to get these things done. So I don't know. I think it's really interesting how she ended up not even really being better than him either. Like she just fully just was engrossed in Joel and like just took him as such a role model that she just went full on with it. Even though like she would have been disgusted back then, because she they're at the chop shop in the first game, and she's like, "How did you know about that?" And he's like, "I've been on both sides."
Yep.
So it's just like, oh, but yeah, she still ended up like seeing him as such a big influence. It's just really interesting seeing that kind of dynamic. What did you think of the gameplay? How much has it improved from the last game?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of similarities, but there's enough differences where it spiced it up, in my opinion. I was a big fan of the workbenches, the workbench system in this game, where you can upgrade all of your weapons, whether that's your recoil, your stability, your ammo capacity, and the mag, number of different upgrades. It's not like the greatest thing ever, but it's enough that it feels like you are properly upgrading your weapons. You can get scopes on your weapons as well. I think that's a really cool new gameplay element. And then also, I forgot what it's called, but like the what is it? The abilities that you can purchase.
Using the supplements to do
the supplements,
the skill trees.
I think that's a great system as well. I really enjoyed that. Kind of like you can improve your listening abilities when you're listening like on the ground to like all of the enemies around you. There's a number of other ones like increase your health. I think those are
crafting speed, healing effectiveness.
Yep,
there's so much stuff. Hearing clarity, hearing range.
It's all stuff that really helps as you progress through the game.
Yeah, and when it comes to that, I'm a little bit torn with it because so one thing I like more is the fact that you have more versatility with the workbench. In a way, it's kind of getting rid of some barriers that the first game set up, where it's like you have to have a certain level of tools to upgrade certain parts of it. So it's like you can't like, even though you got this really cool gun, you can't upgrade it until you have tools level 4 and scrap. So I think it's fine that they got rid of that level of stuff, because I think that it's nice to be able to upgrade any gun any way you want, as long as you have the scrap for it. If you want to go for your damage in your rifle first, you could just do that. You just need to have like 110 scrap or something. But one thing I'm a little bit, I don't know how glad I was about it, was when it came to those training manuals and using the supplement skill tree, because I did like the upgrades they had. I just don't like the fact that like there were certain upgrades I wanted, but I would have to buy a bunch of other useless upgrades to get there.
Yeah.
Like the skill trees tried to be related, but I still saw like a lot of things where I was like, these are a little bit mixed up, and I really just don't want that one, but I have to spend like 80 pills just to get to that one.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to unlock everything like right from the get-go. I wasn't able to even get all of it on my first playthrough. But yeah, that's definitely something to keep in mind, but I still like the fact that the system's there, and I feel like once you do get to those really like the nitty-gritty elements that you're buying, like those higher up ones, I think it does make enough of a difference, whereas like it's not an issue for me. I'm still okay with the way that the system runs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like too big of a worry. It was just, as I was playing, I was just like, I mean, I have to, like, eventually I want to make it so that way I can make more out of less materials, and then doing that you have to buy like so much other stuff that I didn't care about, or it's like I have to buy extra listening mode clarity so that way I can get a more effective health kit. Like, okay, I guess. But yeah, it wasn't like too big of a deal. It was just something that kind of bugged me a little bit. So in terms of gameplay stuff, I definitely feel like it is an improvement because when it comes to the first Last of Us, you kind of had you had a couple ways of like navigating a space. If you were going to progress through the level, it was either going to give someone a boost, drop a plank, place a ladder. Like that was it. Or maybe find a pallet. That was the things you're always looking for.
And you still do that in this game.
Yes, you still look for ladders and planks to set, and then also they added some extra things in now. They added ropes and stuff, which I think was a fun puzzle.
I like that one.
They were fun puzzles.
It's very Uncharted, which I dug.
And it also required a little more thinking than just being like,
it wasn't as simple as like, oh, here's a rope, climb up it. Sometimes it was. Sometimes you would have to figure out, where you're gonna throw the rope. You have to strategically figure it out. That was a cool
power cables too.
Yeah, sometimes you'd have like a lot of slack in those, so you'd have to like throw them over a fence and then bring it over to this circuit over here. And yeah. It was inventive.
I did really enjoy that. One thing that confused me though is that like how he set electricity.
I know
so many buildings. I was like, and then I noticed that like Owen for his aquarium he had a generator running. I was like, that's such a waste of gas, bro. Like, why are you doing this?
Entire aquarium's on all times.
God, such a waste. And like I remember even Tommy when they're at the ski lodge, I was like, how did you get electricity in here? It's just like, geez, guys. I really loved that open section. I loved it. You have that map. You're exploring the town. And I absolutely loved every moment of it. You're just able to explore the big area. I wish there was more of those big open areas. I think that this was definitely them playing around with some ideas, and I think that this worked really good. And I'd be totally down for like there to be more sections like this. Some big open area where you're able to explore like this miniature section of town.
I'm really curious. This is a bit off topic, but I'm really curious to see what Naughty Dog does next project-wise, because Uncharted, at least for the main series, Uncharted's done. I think Uncharted 4 was an absolutely perfect ending. So I don't really see them doing any Uncharted's. I don't see them doing a Last of Us 3.
No.
I don't want them to either at this point.
If they did, it'd be so shoehorned and terrible. It'd be like Godfather Part 3.
More than likely. So it's like, I'm really curious to see what they branch out and do for like, I'm forgetting what else they've made in the past, but it'll probably just be like a new IP going forward.
Probably. That'd be really big of them. Going to the new generation, they have to start a new IP.
Knowing them, it would probably come out like at the midpoint or at the very tail end of the generation, because like with the Last of Us games, it's very interesting. The first Last of Us came out in 2013. 5 months later, next gen consoles. Same thing here. Last of Us 2, June this year. 5 months later, next gen consoles. So they're really pushing the boundaries of each console right before we're thrust into the next one.
Yeah, this almost feels like it is like a PS5 title. Yeah, like it just feels like it looks like it. And that's why I can only imagine what a Brain Master would even look like if they actually fully utilize the technology. That would be insane. It's a little bit small detail, but I liked the manual paper system because, like, the one thing when you're in that open area with Seattle Day 1, there's all those gates, and you have to keep pulling up the paper to look at it to like read it. I liked that, like ability where you can look through your old notes,
and also the safe system where you would find different notes of like, here's the combo for this, and there was one where you'd have like a whole list of combos, and you would have to test a few of them out before. Which one was that? Or sorry, that was for the gate.
Yeah, the gate. Well, the gate you didn't have to try multiple. I don't think. Normally there was a sign above it that would say which one it is, like East 2 or something like that. Regardless, there was a couple interesting ones where they got a little creative with it, because there was one I read where it's like, oh, it's your apartment in my apartment, and I was like, oh shit. So it's like 301, 304 is like the combination, but you had to like read through their notes to know which room's in whose. But it was really interesting having stuff like that. There was also another one that was it's the Wi-Fi password, and I was like, God damn! Like, where's the Wi-Fi password? So you're like looking through the entire place trying to find the Wi-Fi password.
I never ran into that one.
Yeah, that one it was in the gym is where the Wi-Fi password is. Even though like the juice bar is the place that actually had the.
What section of the game is that?
it's towards the end. You're with Abby, I think, and like you're exploring the skyscraper. You're going to like the sky bridge.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I never ran into those then.
Yeah.
Man, that was quite a sequence when you're climbing up.
I loved every time you were playing as Abby. If you look down, it does like the increased FOV. Like they always have the vertigo effect.
And she starts like unbalancing and everything. Oh, man. And I like how he's just like, yeah, we do this all the time. This is nothing. And Abby's like, oh my God, I'm not going to make this. It's like they were so fucking high up. They were in the clouds almost.
How windy it can end up being. Like, God, terrible.
God. And then they like fall and hit the glass and they almost die. And he's like, all right, ready to go? I was like, give me a minute.
Yeah, I'm gonna
almost died.
Time. Yeah. Introduction to dogs is interesting. Like how the listening mode, you have like the scent they can follow.
I dreaded the dogs.
I always felt bad.
I hated them because it's just like they were the most dangerous asset. They were the priority. You'd have to take out the dogs first. But then in doing so, you would likely alert somebody.
You would alert the guy right next to it, yeah.
Exactly. So then it's this domino effect of crazy fuckery.
Yeah. And then the dog would always just randomly bark. Like they would find your trail somehow and you're just like, fucking hell. All right.
It's a cool gameplay mechanic. I like that it's there.
Oh, yeah. I definitely prefer it because, again, it's like one of the standout things because the Scars are actually afraid of dogs because of that. And I like that kind of effect with it where they're like, I don't want to mess with dogs. They're going to kill me. Also, I love the fact that 2 main dogs in the game are both names of dogs I've owned. My old dog's name was Alice.
And what was the other one?
Bear. Bear's my current dog's name.
So you were especially emotionally impacted when Ellie killed Alice and like threw it against the table.
I felt so bad because the second I killed that dog, I was like, as Ellie, I'm like, kill the dog. I'm like, I feel bad for killing the dog. And then like as soon as you go to Abby, like day 1, you're like, oh look, it's Alice. I'm like, no, I killed Alice.
I know they're really trying to humanize it,
And then also you have to like throw the ball or the little squeak toy around.
Cute.
Oh,
so cute.
And then Ellie kills him.
Yup.
But yeah. The only real armor stuff they had was towards the end in Santa Barbara, which I thought was interesting. Like they didn't introduce armor sooner or anything.
I don't remember that.
Sometimes they had helmets, you couldn't get headshots. If they had body armor,
they did have helmets. Okay,
and stuff.
I remember that.
So it was a lot harder to kill them in that, right? And I was really interested they only did that in the Santa Barbara portion.
That's true.
But I knew as soon as I got like the SMG, I'm like, all right, we got a fully automatic weapon. We're in the last hour.
Love it.
100%. I know.
Loved that. Ammo was scarce. And ran through it like a motherfucker, but I love that they introduced that.
When I was in that mansion in Santa Barbara, like trying to fight off everyone, there was a point where there was still a couple people left, and I only had 1 bullet, and it was in my hunting rifle, and I'm like, fuck.
Did you have like Molotovs or like the pipe bombs?
I had like stun bombs and stuff still, but like I just never used them. I was so dumb because I had maxed out all of them. I just never used them because my brain never went to it. Towards the end, I started like randomly just throwing Molotovs. I'm like, I don't care if this doesn't kill multiple people. I just need to kill you because you are being such a piece of shit.
Yeah, this series especially, and this game especially, does a great job of like really making you your back is up against the wall in terms of resources all the time. Even if you're playing on an easier difficulty where resources are a lot more common, it's still not like, oh, you're completely set. You still have to scavenge, you still have to craft all the time. Med kits and Molotovs or pipe bombs. Dude, I love, this is off topic too, but the flamethrower, oh my god.
I never used it.
It was so effective.
I used it a couple times, that was about it.
Well, back when I was playing as Abby down in the, where she's fighting like the big motherfucker, flamethrower came in handy then. And even just against normal guys, just a little like dead.
I had a full shotgun and full hunting pistol, and that's what I used to kill the big boy. I also had like full incendiary rounds.
Yes, those were, and explosive tipped arrows. Those were the best. I used those in the Santa Barbara mansion.
I only used the explosive arrow once.
It was really great because if you hit around a group of targets, they'll all explode and like fly up in the air. But if you hit them dead on, body parts go flying everywhere.
Yeah,
I'm talking everywhere, dude.
I remember
everywhere.
I remember the first time I used it, it was pretty good. I don't know why I didn't use it again.
It's so fun. Use more of it, please.
Yeah. When I go through it again, probably. Because I will inevitably go through this game again.
Yeah, I can't wait to beat it again on a higher difficulty. explore more, craft more, get more out of it.
I don't know how high of a difficulty I'll go back when I go back to it, but
I'm a bit of a bitch. I played it on very light. I think that's the easiest one. I wanted to, for one thing, I'm not like MLG. I'm not the best at all these games, but I wanted to enjoy the story, not get super wrapped up in like, oh, I can't get past this spot. Did a good job with that. Now I'm playing it on a moderate difficulty, and it's harder. It's harder, so we'll see how I deal with that.
Yeah, I'm really curious if I try like hard or something like that right before like grounded.
What's
or
the top one? Like
grounded is the hardest.
What even is that though?
I think it's just like I don't know. It's just hyper realistic where it's
one
like,
shot
nothing.
dead.
Yeah,
probably.
You can't get shot at all. You have to be super stealth.
Fuck that.
Yeah, that'd be really annoying. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else in terms of gameplay? The crossbow sucked.
Yeah,
crossbow was the worst fucking thing ever.
I never liked it.
It's like, oh, the arrow, you can get your arrows back more frequently. I'm like, that's fucking great, but I have to shoot them twice to kill them. Yeah, unless you get a headshot. Fucking, no.
Explosive tipped arrows, man.
Yeah, when you use the regular bow, like, I saw Lev using the bow, I was like, hey, you want to trade? I'll give you the crossbow. Just let me use the bow. I actually really like the gameplay mechanic where you could break windows.
Yeah.
I thought it was really nice and inventive because it's like it makes you feel like you're able to get to areas you normally wouldn't have been able to, especially like compared to the first game.
And yeah, for sure, absolutely that. And then if you want to draw the infected or the clickers a certain way, if you're going into a business or a building or something and it's really big, there's a lot of windows, you can throw your item, like your brick or whatever, through a window like on the left side and get all their attention. That you can sneak in through the right, and you don't have to like face them head on.
Being a lot less linear in this game made it so that way there was like a lot more you could like take on a situation. Granted, I never really took advantage of those a lot, but like afterwards, I'm like, exploring the area. I'm like, wow, there were so many ways. Like I could have went through this back room or through this building. I didn't even know this building was here, but like theoretically, I could have used it for like cover and hid in this way. And it was really nice to know that like there was like some of those options. Just having those bigger spaces to work with, I think, really helped it. But also, I was gonna say, so those cards you pick up?
Yeah.
Did you notice that one was called Dr. Uckman?
No.
And it's a play on when you put doctor in his hyphen, it's Druckmann.
Neil Druckmann.
Yeah.
Hey.
it was in the Seattle section when you go in one of the buildings. So with the infected, there was a couple more varieties of stuff. There was, you sell your clickers around and everything. You had your regular runners and stuff, but then also they had like the weird hybrids where there was like
what are they called? The fucking
shamblers.
Yeah, hated them. The stalkers too, hated them. Yeah. Because the way
you can't hear them.
Yeah, you cannot hear them at all. You can't see them until they pop out and everything. So I mean, that section where you're with Lev and you're like navigating the building and you're like trying to go lower and lower each floor, like on the planks and on like the pipes and shit. Hated that because the stalkers were everywhere. And at first you're just like, oh, there's nobody in here. Sweet. And then once you like acquire an item in a certain room and you try to leave, you hear them like sneak around. I'm like, oh no, there's a bunch of them. That's where the flamethrower came in handy. Let me tell you.
There was a couple moments like that where I was
hated
like,
them. They were just so scary. Ugh.
Yeah. Well, it's just like you can't hear them or anything, and like I'm low on health and like low on resources, so I'm sitting there like, fuck you, where the fuck are you? Yep. I think I was with Ellie, like even when when you first enter Santa Barbara and you see a couple of them, I'm like, where the fuck are you? Get out of here. I love them. I love them so much. They were fun. But the Shamblers, those are the big guys that shoot acid, right?
Yep. No, were those the bloaters?
No.
Shamblers.
They are not. Bloaters are the big tanks. Shamblers are the ones with like the acid, like they have a bunch of like the
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And those guys, they were interesting. They were definitely like problematic because I forgot half the time if they could see or not.
Yeah.
If they were like full on clicker, because like their heads like so puffed up, I'm like they probably can't see. And then they see me, and I'm like,
yep,
shit.
I ran into situations like that where I have my flashlight. And I'm like, oh, this should be off right now.
Infected can't see flashlights.
All of them?
Yes. I remember I turned off a flashlight, and then there was like a pop-up in the bottom right that said, infected can't see flashlights. I'm like, oh, okay.
I swore that they've seen my flashlight at some point. I don't know. Maybe I was moving around too fast, but I don't know.
I'm not sure. But from what I saw, I thought like in one of the pop-ups early on, it mentioned to me.
It did say that.
Cool. Yeah. But Yeah, so the bloaters, I think that I actually liked how they changed them because it's similar to like it's a terrible comparison. It's similar to what they did from like Halo 4 to Halo 5 with Promethean Knights, where they went from like these regular like big guys that were like, oh yeah, you gotta be careful, to like get the fuck away from these guys. They're gonna fuck your shit up. Like I remember in the scene where like it's Joel and Ellie again back when they're like clearing out the hotel, going to the music store, and you fight your a bloater for the first time. And it was terrifying.
Yep.
It was absolutely terrifying fighting that thing. It is such a big beastie. And it just...
It's like wrecking through walls and everything. Ugh.
I loved the arcade fight with the bloater. I loved that fight.
Oh my god.
Because what happened is that I started like throwing a bunch of like bombs and stuff.
Yeah,
and
that helps. That
when
really
they blew up, it blew up all the cabinets as well. It just blasted everything clean. I gotta show you that.
Throwing pipe bombs at those guys, super helpful.
Yeah.
Or Molotovs, very helpful.
Oh. Yeah, normally like in the last game, you could just throw 2 Molotovs, shooting the shotgun once, and that was it.
Yeah.
This one was not the case.
A little harder.
They're definitely a lot. They're a bit harder with this one.
Just a little.
But I loved it. I like how they made the bloaters like a lot more scary. So I did appreciate that.
But not as frequent. I mean, you only run into a few of them.
You run into like 3 or 4, and that's it. Yeah. There was another one that I decided not to fight, but I could have. I think I was when I was playing as Abby and going through the building, and like we just had open the elevator, and I was like, I'm not fighting these guys.
If there was ever an option to avoid the bloaters or the bigger guys, always took it. I'm not trying to,
I mean, there's probably stuff I missed in terms of looting, but like there was literally that room that was like there was like 4 to 5 clickers, a regular guy, and a bloater. I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to fight these guys. Fuck this. Like I'm gonna use literally all my resources, and maybe I'll kill it. So I just decided to avoid it entirely. So. Music. Austin, what did you think of the music? The score?
I loved it. It's the same composer as the first game.
Gustavo. Which, by the way, I think he's in the beginning of the game in Jackson.
Oh, really?
When I was watching Sean play through it, he was like sitting out in a rocking chair playing a banjo.
Okay.
And I think that was actually Gustavo.
That'd be probably. Yeah, just like the first game. Musically, there's a lot of variety. It can be pulse pounding intense all the way down to like really intimate and reserved and introspective. There's a gamut of like what kind of music you'll come across in this game, and it really works for whatever situation you're in, just like the first one. But really the soundtrack is so good that I find myself just listening to it when I'm driving or when I'm at home, just not even playing.
The first one or the new one?
Both, but especially the new one. New one's great as well. Yeah, love the music. I feel like that's something that not enough people talk about.
Yeah, I think that like I would need to go through and like listen to the music again because I don't remember a lot of like the main scores. Like a lot of the songs when I'm listening to the main songs and stuff in the cutscenes, I can't remember them too much. Nothing as like I don't know if there's any that are like as iconic as like the first ones, but when I'm in when I'm like in action fighting enemies and stuff. That's when I really noticed the music. Like the music was really good. After you kill bitch face guy, that's what Ellie says. But as soon as you kill him, like that music, how it has like I don't know, just the music that's behind it is really good. I loved it. And then also like in most times where I was fighting, I just like start listening to the music and I'm like, this is really good. Like it really accompanies the action really well. And I don't remember Last of Us Part 1 having stuff like that, having as good action music. But like it still has super iconic like cutscene music.
Strings.
Yeah. So I would have to listen through it again to see how good it is overall, but I know that action music nailed it. All right, Austin, give me your final verdict.
Overall, I'm probably going to give this game at least an 8 to an 8.5 out of 10. Yeah, I don't think it's quite as good as the first game, even though the first game was a lot more simple, yet effective. I really do love that Naughty Dog was a lot more experimental, unconventional with the approach to the story in this game. It didn't pay off in every single aspect for me, at least in terms of pacing. My only real big gripe with this game is that I do think Abby's storyline is a little bit of a grind. I do think it goes on far too long.
I still don't even care about her character that much.
I was able to care about the character, but not to the level where maybe Naughty Dog thought, like...
Not to an emotional amount.
Yeah, like, you're able to reason with her and understand her motivations and everything, but, again, having 6 to 9 or more. I forgot however long it was, but having that many amount of hours dedicated to Abby just didn't sit right with me with the pace of the game, because I found myself towards the end of her storyline to just be like, oh my god, can we just go back to Ellie, please? Not because I didn't enjoy playing as Abby, but not for that long, because it just felt tedious after a certain point. That was my main gripe.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was like that during all of Seattle day 1. I was like, can we just get fucking back to the actual like stuff I care about? Yeah. And then as soon as it got to like day 2, day 3 of Seattle, I'm like, you know what? I really don't mind this. I really don't mind the story they're telling here. And I started to get along with it, but I still, like, of course I wanted to kind of see what happens here. And I was really curious, though, to see what Abby was doing the entire time. And it did surprise me when it turns out Abby had literally no fucking clue about Ellie. I thought that she was like running away from her the entire time, like trying to get away and trying to hide out. And that's what like Ellie thought as she was going through too. Like, oh, she's trying to get away? I don't think so. But no, the entire time she's just doing her own thing.
Yep.
And I thought that was really interesting to get her side of the story since it was so different. But
yeah, overall I loved the game. I do think, it's going to be divisive in terms of just a story perspective in some way, probably because of Abby's storyline, because I know there's people that have expressed, disdain or disappointment to some extent just because they don't want to play as her character after she did such an atrocious thing to Joel. But again, that's kind of the point that the game makes, is that they do that to each other. It's perspectives, it's this cycle of violence on each side. And personally, I really, really love how Naughty Dog kind of portrayed that theme, because think about it, if the world was an absolute zombie infested world and like The Last of Us, that's exactly the kind of stuff you'd be dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So not exactly perfect in the execution, but everything else is so goddamn good that I'm willing to overlook it. And yeah, for me, it's just further cementing Naughty Dog as one of my absolute favorite game developers. So
I would probably give it an 8, just because I just couldn't care enough about Abby's side of things. Don't get me wrong, at the end, I was still like, can we just like have you guys go separate ways? Just don't meet up again. Don't fight again. I just want you guys to do your own thing. Be happy. I really cared in that way, but like it wasn't like if Abby did die and like Lev died, I wouldn't be like distraught. I would just be like, okay. I don't know. So I didn't feel that emotional weight as opposed to Ellie, where as Abby, I'm beating the shit out of Ellie, and I felt so bad the entire time, and I hated it.
It's because you've played a whole game and a half as her, so.
Right. No, I had that, but like also, I just think that I liked her character a lot more. I don't know how much I liked Abby's character. Like I do like her transformation where she starts to understand the other side, and in that
I think Lev brings a lot of humanity to Abby.
Yeah,
for sure. I think without Lev, I wouldn't have cared as much for Abby. I think Lev is a great like counterpart.
Well, because Lev is the one
that,
like, kind of.
You could also look at it as Abby is the Joel figure, and Lev is the Ellie figure in a way.
Yeah. No, it's definitely like that, yeah. But
the one, because Ellie keeping Joel in check throughout the first game, and then Lev keeping Abby in check in this game. So another little dynamic there that I really enjoyed.
I do really enjoy the story, and I know that it's really dark. People might not like that, but I think the story they told is still really solid and fine. I don't know how they could have fixed it with the problems they had. They were just such weird problems to have, but I don't know. I still really like this game, and I want to go through it again, which I think is a testament to some degree of quality. So, yeah, I think overall, like, I think people should definitely try it out if they haven't.
Before you form an opinion, play the game yourself, complete it. Don't
definitely complete it.
Yeah,
because I know Felix was playing through it, and like after Joel died, he was like, I don't even know if I want to play this anymore. And I was like, yeah, just get through it. Just get through it. Keep going, and you'll get more into it. And that's the one thing I hate is that like how much people are just hating on it, like super hard. I'm like, I
feel so bad for all the developers at Naughty Dog and Neil Druckmann and everything, because they're clearly so passionate about this game. Troy Baker, Ashley Johnson, they're all very passionate about this game over the years and interviews and different things that they've done. Like, they love it. and for them to finally bring this out into the world, a world in a state of divide and all this shit going on. Hopefully Naughty Dog was going to sprinkle a little bit of joy, and turns out not even that was.
I mean, like, I know that people will say that this one's like bleak, and that's why they don't like it. But this one is admittedly a lot bleaker than the first one, but still, the first one had some dark moments. The first 10 minutes, Sarah dies, and that's fucking depressing. Like, what a tone setter! And people are like, "Wow, that's amazing." But then, like, when Joel dies, and like that's not a tone setter. That's also a tone setter. But then, like, oh, I don't like it. Like,
it's too much.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's definitely a big death to have so early on. But at the same time, like, what would you want? You want him to live, and then you want a story to be about how they're chasing him down, and then like I thought the story was gonna be about like Joel dying, and then her slowly realizing why they were coming after her. But
it's like the only real logical storytelling beat to like continue on, really.
Well, they kind of changed it because it's like Ellie already knew at this point. So I think that was really interesting that like they didn't.
I just mean
they didn't focus too much on that aspect.
From the Firefly perspective of Abby and tracking Joel down. I mean, that makes so much sense right there, and I feel like that's the only real logical way you could have continued the story without it just being another conventional zombie kind of story.
And still, worst case scenario, you can always leave it off and just pretend the second one doesn't exist and just be like, oh, we'll leave it off on that ambiguity. Did Ellie believe or not? And I guess it makes sense that she would go investigate the hospital just because it's part of her character. She's going to be naturally curious, rebellious and stuff. So of course she would go to the hospital herself and just
that was a heartbreaking scene when she like totally denounced Joel. I think we talked about that already, but where she was like, yeah, I will go back to the camp, but we're done. That was like, that like hit me right in the gut. There's a number of moments in this game where it's like that.
I don't feel like it hit me as hard. I don't know why.
It hit me hard personally.
But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't know why that didn't hit me as much as it did. Because I guess maybe it was just like, oh, okay, so this is
because you're a heartless wretch.
I think I teared up at a weird part then, because there was definitely some part I teared up at, and it was really stupid. I think the things that get me are
the arcade
weird.
Blew up. No, not the arcade.
No. All right. I also love the grass mechanic. We never talk about that. The grass mechanic's cool. I like that.
Loved that.
It was so cool.
Where you could go prone in like the short grass or crouch in the tall grass. That was great.
Good shit. I'm glad that we're doing this all in order.
I was going to say, the only reason we're bringing that up is because we're watching gameplay of it right now. We forgot to throw it in.
Yeah. But, I mean, it helped me come up with some ideas and stuff of what to talk about. But,
sure.
Yeah. Good shit.
Anyway, go buy the game. Go form your own opinion. And, yeah, go Naughty Dog.
Yeah, go Naughty Dog.